In today's video, I've got something really exciting to show you. This is the Shimbol ZO600M wireless monitor. I currently have it paired to the Zolink 600s transmitter, which is plugged into my Ninja 5 recorder. The Shimbol system together will cost you around £650, and weirdly the monitor is actually cheaper than the transmitter and receiver kit. Now Shimbol did send me this whole kit and system to review, but they haven't looked at this video before it's gone live, they haven't really told me to say anything specific, and the opinions in this video are entirely my own. Now you may be wondering why a wireless system is necessary. Well, if you're on a set and you have the director in a different room to the cinematographer, for example, it's great to have a wireless system so the director can actually see what's going on in another room. Another example is if someone is using a gimbal and you want to be able to see what they're actually recording. You don't want to have to chase them around with their gimbal, you want to be able to just sit comfortably and see the footage that the gimbal operator is actually recording. So really any situation where the director or someone actually making the content can't see the footage directly, a wireless system is a must-have. And in fact, a lot of productions actually require a system like this. Looking at the build quality of this monitor, it's made mostly of plastic with some metal elements, and to be honest, compared to my Ninja 5, it does feel quite cheap, but I wouldn't say it feels badly made. I think it's still quite a solid product. It's also lightweight, weighing only 300 grams, but obviously this will be more once you add batteries. What's great is that you can use Sony NPF batteries with this, but you can actually use two, whereas my Ninja 5 recorder can only accept one. And if you're like me and you already have the Ninja 5, you'll be happy to know that the power adapter that comes with the Ninja 5 does also work with the Shimbol monitor. Across the top of the monitor, there are a number of different buttons, the power button and 3 function buttons. These functions can be set in the monitor, and we'll take a look at those later. On the right side of the monitor, there is a TF card slot. Mine came included with a 32GB card, and you can actually record to this, but more on that later. Underneath there is a USB-C port, which unfortunately is only for debugging. You can't power the monitor with this. It's a shame that you can't use a power bank to power this, but hopefully Shimbol will include that feature in their next monitor. Taking a look at the left-hand side, you get the HDMI in, HDMI out, there's a headphone jack, and a DC in for power. Now it's great having a headphone jack so you can monitor your audio levels, and considering the price, it's great to have all of these options. Unfortunately, you don't actually get a power cable included in the box, but I really would have liked to have seen one included. Now, one thing that I'm really not a fan of with this monitor is the lack of mounting ports. There's only 1/4 inch thread at the bottom of the monitor, and considering that this is wireless, it would have been nice to have had 1/4 inch threads at the sides, and then you can mount handles to it and actually move around with it. So you kind of have to hold it just from the monitor, which is a bit of a shame. I suppose you could get a little handle that goes underneath, but it would have been much nicer to have had handles either side to walk around with the monitor. Now, one thing that really surprised me when it comes to this monitor is the quality of the screen. So what you get here is a 1920 by 1200 touchscreen with a 1000 nit brightness. And honestly, side by side with the Ninja 5, I'm not really sure I can tell much of a difference between the quality of the screens. You can also see that the Ninja 5 on the right has a slightly warmer screen in terms of white balance, and if I position both of these towards my key light, you can see that the Ninja 5 also has better anti-glare, the reflection doesn't look as harsh on the screen, so the Shimbol would probably be harder to see out in broad daylight. One thing that may be a real deal breaker for people when it comes to this monitor is the supported resolutions. So this monitor supports up to 1920 by 1080 at 60, 59.94, 50, 30, 29.97, 25 and 23.98 FPS. It also supports 1920 by 1080i at 60, 59.94 and 50 FPS. And finally 1280 by 720 at 60, 59.94 or 50 FPS. That means that if your camera supports 4K internal recording but not 1080p output at the same time, then you won't be able to use this monitor. Luckily on my Sony a7 III and my Sony a7 IV, I can record in 4K internally, but I can output 1080p via the HDMI port. I'm not sure if all cameras can do this, so double check before you look at buying this monitor. So earlier on I showed you that TF card slot on the side of the monitor, and you do get a 32GB card included, and this is intended intended for recording. But let me tell you something, you're not going to want to record on this monitor. The reason being is that the recording bitrate is only 8 megabits per second, which is a tiny file size. You're going to be getting very low quality, even in 1080p 60 frames per second. As an example, my Sony a7 IV can record 400 megabits per second in 4K, and this is 8 megabits per second in 1080p. So you can imagine there the kind of difference in quality. And here are some comparison shots so you can see what the 8-bit recording is like. So when you first look at these videos side by side, the recording from the Shimbol monitor on the right actually doesn't look that bad. But when we zoom in, you can see that there's a lot of artifact, there's some banding there, especially as I've added some color correction. So this really doesn't look very good. If I start the video again and we look at the recording from the Sony a7 IV, you can see that it's much cleaner. So to be honest, I probably wouldn't use the recording function in the monitor as it just isn't going to give you great results. One thing I really love about this monitor is the touchscreen. So earlier I mentioned that the screen is high resolution, it's good quality, but it's also really responsive, which is something you don't usually expect from budget touchscreen items. Usually budget touchscreens can be a little bit laggy, or you'll touch somewhere on the screen and it'll select somewhere else, and I hate that. That's really not what you want if you're on a set or any kind of situation where you need to use a monitor. But luckily the touchscreen on this is incredibly responsive and accurate. I can press buttons right next to other buttons and it always selects the correct one, and overall I've been really impressed with this. So let's take a look at the menu system on the monitor and what features you get built in. So this is how you'll see the monitor if you first turn it on, and across the top, so starting off on the top left, we can see it says in wireless, and that means it's in wireless mode. Then we've got the icon for the signal, so I can see that I've got 4 bars of signal, and actually what's being transmitted right now is my a7 III, which is in a completely different room on the other side of the house, and no real issues with signal even through like 3 or 4 different walls. Then I have, it says channel 0. You can set the different channel on here to pair it with different transmitters, but the weird thing is that I have the transmitter set to channel 3 and this is channel 0, and yet it still works fine, no problems. Now, whether or not that's a kind of bug or maybe the monitor doesn't need to be on a channel to actually sync with the transmitters, I don't know for sure, but either way, it seems to be working absolutely fine. We then have our resolutions. You can see that I've got it set to 1920 by 1080 at 60 FPS. Then I have a little card icon, and that's to show that the TF card is inside the monitor. And then you have the battery, and it shows I'm on a 7.6 battery, which is a Sony NPF battery, and I'm around 60% battery. So before we get into the menus and the options that we have here, I just want to show you the function buttons I've got across the top. So as you can see from function 1, I have the peaking, so I can see what's in focus on the image. This is great to have on any monitor, but at this price point it's great to have, and you can just turn it on and off really easily by using the function button. Then on function 2 I have my histogram, so I can see my exposure. This again is great to have, and you can customize what you want on these function keys, and I'll show you that later. Then finally on the third function key I have my zoom option. From here I can actually pinch and zoom the image, move it around, and this is super responsive. Nice to have to check that I've got the image in focus. So across the bottom of the monitor you have all of your different menu icons, you have your audio level, and then you have the main menu. So let's first start with the main menu because this is quite straightforward. So you have your display settings, you've got brightness, contrast, saturation, sharpness, and even RGB adjustment, but I've left all of these as default because I think the image on the monitor is quite accurate. Then you have your setting, and from here you can choose to have normal scan or underscan. You've got the backlight options, your volume settings, and then you can also format the SD card. Next, you have your function key customization, and again, this enables you to choose pretty much anything to have on your function keys. You can have your histogram, waveform, RGB parade, vector, marker, safe area, anamorphic settings, center marker, peaking, zoom, zebra, false color, monochrome. You can use a LUT, HDR, you can start recording, or you can play or close. So a lot of different options here that you can put on the function keys. Finally, on system, you can choose your language, your version information, you can software update, you can factory reset, and then there's an about us, and then you can change between transmitter and receiver wireless modes. And that's pretty much it. So something I wanted to point out is that if you want to get rid of any of these icons during viewing, you can just tap on the screen once and it gets rid of everything. So you've got a nice clean view. So now I'm going to go through the menu icons across the bottom, and the first thing we have is our wireless settings. So from here you can change your input from HDMI to wireless. You've then got your wireless mode, so you can see that I'm in receiver mode with the Zolink system and receiver 1 rather than being like receiver 2 or whatever. But this is fine. You don't really need to customize this out of the box. It should work without really adjusting any settings. Then you've got your channel options. And again, I'm set to channel 0, but this really has nothing to do with my Zolink 600S, which is in the other room. It's all working fine. Next, we have our scope menu. So you can add a waveform. You've got the RGB parade, you've got the histogram and the vector scope. Now, annoyingly, you can only have 3 of these on at the same time. And it seems I can't have RGB parade and waveform on at the same time. It always kind of takes one off if I want to have both of those, which is a bit of a shame. You can also adjust the opacity and how strong you want these to be over the image, which is great to have if you just want them to be sort of low opacity, but still be able to see what's going on behind them. So our next option is markers, and from here you can turn your markers on. I've got mine set to green, and you can have like a marker for specific ratios if you want to make sure you're in like safe areas. So I'm on 4:3 here. If I just turn that off, you can see you've got the 4:3 box for the marker. And this is really useful. You've also got safe areas as well. So you can choose a safe area ratio, the width of the safe area, and again, the color. You've also got anamorphic, and this enables de-squeeze. So if you're using anamorphic lenses, you can de-squeeze the image onto the monitor. That is a great feature to have at this price point, and I was actually quite surprised to see this included. You also have a center marker. So if you turn this on, you can just see where the center of the screen is, but I mean, I don't really know if you're going to need that for general viewing and recording. The next option we have is peaking. So you can see already that I have peaking enabled with my F1 button on the top, and you can see that it enables it here, but you could choose a different color. You can have it as green or blue or sort of gray, although I can barely see gray on this image. So I'm going to keep it as red, as I think that's probably the best one to have it on. You can also adjust the sensitivity. So you can just have slight peaking to really sort of nail in the focus, or you can increase the sensitivity just to have like a general idea of what's in focus here. You've also then got your zoom option. And again, that's like what I had before. So you've got your pinch and zoom. But I had that already on my function key. So you've already seen a demonstration of that. Next up, we have our exposure menu. And from here, you can enable the zebras, which is really good to see how much of the image is overexposed. But obviously you need to set a maximum and minimum threshold. We also have our false color. Now, if you're someone that uses log profiles, this is great for exposing skin correctly and things like that. So false color, again, a great feature to have, a professional feature to have on this fairly budget monitor. You can also enable monochrome, so red, blue, green, grey. Not really sure why you'd use this. I guess it might be good in some situations, but I can't see this being a feature I'll use. Our next menu is our color menu. From here, you can enable LUTs. Now, if you have a LUT added to the TF card, which is in the side of the TF card slot here, you can actually import LUTs directly from it. So I have my base LUTs added here for log profiles on my Sony camera. This is really handy to have when monitoring log footage. So you can actually apply a LUT, and then you get an idea of what it will look like once you've added a color grade. You've also got your gamma settings, and I have mine off at the minute. I don't have this turned on. I haven't really needed to or felt like I've needed it on, but obviously you can choose between 2.2, 2.4 or 2.6. This does affect the image quite a lot. So you can see you turn it on, you can see how the darkness of the image changes, the black level. But yeah, I just leave this off because it seems to be fine without him. Next, we have HDR. So if you are filming in HDR or using HLG, for example, you can enable HDR on the monitor. This brightens up the monitor. As you can see, it's a little bit overexposed on this image now. And that basically gives you an idea of how your footage will actually look in HDR. Really good feature to have. Again, having HDR on this monitor at this price point is something I didn't expect. And then finally, on the color menu, you've got your color temperature. I've set this to user, but it's pretty much, if I click user, I can't actually choose anything else. It seems to just be set sort of as it should be, really. 5600K, 6500K and 9600K all look a little bit off to me, so I just keep it on the user. Next, we have our teleprompter menu. Essentially, you can load a text file onto the TF card, and you can actually play, your text file like it would be a teleprompter, which is really handy to have, I suppose. I can't say it's something I would use. The teleprompter usually is, in front of a lens, so it doesn't look like you're reading something, but I guess it's still a good feature to have if you want to use it. Maybe, I don't know, keep it just on your side and read off it while you're presenting to camera. Again, it's a handy feature to have. And finally, we have our recording and playback menu. I really don't think people should be recording on this monitor, to be quite honest. 8-bit footage is not going to look that good. I guess if you want to use it for whatever reason, you can. I mean, it could be that you want to use this monitor for CCTV, something like that, where 8-bit footage isn't really going to be a problem. But obviously, if you're into professional video content, 8-bit is not going to be enough. And finally, you have your lock button, and this just locks the screen so you can't accidentally press anything. Really handy to have, and that's essentially all of the features on the monitor. That's what you can expect from this monitor when it comes to features, and I have to say, considering the price point, this monitor has a lot to offer. But what makes this monitor exceptional is the wireless capability. The monitor itself can be set as a receiver or transmitter with up to 500 foot of range, with just 0.1 millisecond of latency. It can also transmit to 2 other receivers, plus 1 iOS app, and unfortunately there's no Android app, which is a real shame. And when you pair this monitor with the Shimbol 600S wireless kit, this whole system expands even further. With the 600S kit, you get a receiver and a transmitter, and both feature HDMI and SDI connections, OLED screens, USB-C ports for power, or you can use Sony MPF batteries. They have up to 600 foot of range, built-in antennas, 80 milliseconds low latency, and they're fanless as well to avoid any additional noise. Having no fan built in also helps to keep these slim and light. Now, there is one drawback to the Zolink 600S kit, and that's the fact that they cap out at 1080p 60fps, similar to the monitor. So if you do want a 4K system, again, the monitor and the wireless kit won't really be for you, but for 1080p monitoring, this kit is perfect. So I suppose the ideal setup for this kit is to have the transmitter plugged into your camera and then have your monitor somewhere else so you can actually monitor the footage. But then that leaves us with a spare receiver, and I'll get to how we can use that later. So pairing the transmitter and the monitor is really straightforward. You can just go into the pairing menu on the transmitter, and then the monitor will automatically pair as long as it's set to receiver mode. Now, what really surprised me is how this can work through walls. So this office is in the back of my house, and I set the transmitter up with my camera and I took the monitor all the way to the front room of this house. No problems at all. The footage came out absolutely fine, no transmission errors or artifacts or anything like that. It was super clear. This makes this kit perfect for small set productions or even quite big set productions where you need a wireless system. So earlier I mentioned that if you have your setup like mine with the transmitter on top of the camera and then the monitor set as a receiver, then with the 600S kit you actually have an extra receiver left. You could just keep this in a box and not bother using it, or you could plug this into another monitor and have yet another wireless screen. So what you could do is just plug it into any kind of TV, monitor, whatever, and then you can look at your footage on yet another screen. So based on how I have this system now, I've got my Ninja 5 on top of the camera with the transmitter, I've got the wireless monitor here, and then I could have another wireless monitor. That means you could have one screen for the director to look at, one screen for the FX people to look at, or whatever kind of setup you want. So I'm really impressed with this kit, especially as it's going to cost you around £650, which to be honest, really isn't a lot. I think when I bought my Ninja 5 on its own, it was around $580, $600, something like that. So to actually have a wireless monitor kit for around the same price is pretty good. So big thank you to Shimbol for sending me this to take a look at. All the links to purchase are in the description below. And if you have any questions about the product, let me know down in the comments and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. It really helps out my channel. If you want to see more from me, subscribe, hit that bell icon as well, and you'll be notified when I upload another video. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.